Thank you for staying with us. The 8-month-long strike embarked on by members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, might have come to an end, but the impact lingers and is taking its toll on parents and students. As students head back to school, those living in hostels off campus might meet their properties outside or their doors locked, as some of the landlords have since leased the apartments to new occupants and jacked up the rent beyond the capacity of the students. For the students to get access to their apartments, some landlords are insisting that they pay rent for the 8 months that they have been away and then commence payment of an increased rental fee. The apology rendered by the federal government for the strike has done nothing to assist parents in raising the monies their wards will need amidst the raging inflation that has diminished their incomes. But joining us in the studio is a parent, Ejiro Sagua. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning, Victoria. Good morning, Uncle Sam.
How are you?
Very fine.
Right. Now, this matter of ASUU strike.
Sorry, Veronica.
Yes, it's fine. I have a sister called Victoria, so it's fine.
Okay.
This ASUU strike, 8 months long, and we are seeing now the impact of this whole matter, where landlords of students are saying they have to pay for the 8 months they were away for, and all of it. Let's talk about the complexities of the strike, how it has affected you as a parent.
Okay, yeah. The issue of the rent, accommodation, I think it's not the main issue. You should be looking at mental health for the students. You see, I have a 21-year-old daughter in the Federal University, so I feel it. You know, I see her, you know, totally no more interested in going back to school. You see, because 8 months, you know, it's enough time for somebody to forget about a habit. It's more than enough.
Right.
You know, so starting from COVID, they were out of school.
Yes.
Then you go into the strike. So it's education, you know, somehow becomes meaningless to them. You see, I had to explain to her that, listen, you know, she's doing different types of businesses, deliveries, you know. I said, listen, she said, I'm already doing what I would have been doing when I finished school. So why do I go back? I said, no, listen, let's have a discussion here. You need your certificate, okay? Nigeria is like that, you need your certificate. You know, so apart from this rent issue, most of the students are completely demoralized. You know, that the government and the whole system has failed them. You see, before the strike, before the ASUU strike, you know, the students were already feeling disgruntled, okay? Because hostel facilities, for example, in the universities, you know, in the federal universities, you know, they are not much to write home about. I'm sure when Uncle Sam was in university, he must have. I've heard him talk about his stay in university, how it was very comfortable.
Yes.
You know, it's not.
Did I say that?
No, I think you said something about accommodation, something like that.
The meal was one of
the meal is the meal I was talking about, not accommodation.
Okay. The meal.
We had accommodation for officially, probably accommodation was for 4 people.
Okay.
But if you came there at 10 p.m.,
yeah.
You had about 12 people in there. Everybody, we call them pirates. Yeah, you know, everyone sleeping on the floor, another one sleeping on the window, and so everybody had their own place.
Yes.
But early in the morning, everybody woke up and you saw the beds, and everything was cleaned up. But at night, it was a choir, snore, meeting snore, and you know, and then you also had you know, all kinds of body movement. So if you do.
I've got you talking.
So that was the situation. The meals were different matter altogether.
Okay.
But what we are focusing on today is not that. What we are focusing on is the fact that the children are having the same replay of ASUU and federal government.
Yes.
ASUU says, pay us our 8 months salary.
Yes, exactly.
The landlords are saying, pay me my 8 months rent. So the fathers They are visiting the sins. They are visiting the sins of the lecturers upon the children.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I mean, if we have to look at it,
no, but how widespread is this problem where landlords are doing that? Because you know that in our time, the number of people who were seeking accommodation outside of campus was minimal, because we had fewer people who were admitted, and the hostels provided accommodation for most. There are some people who were living outside, those who had more money and so on, who could afford it. But for most part, even the children of the rich were on campus, and they tried to make themselves different by sometimes having cars and sometimes dressing differently, or making their apartments their own little cubicle look a little more luxurious than others, and so on. But now we have people who are entrepreneurs, housing entrepreneurs, who build housing facilities very close to campuses, so that the students now live on those campuses. They pay to live on those places. So that is different. So my question is, how widespread is this problem where the landlords are saying, well, this place has been, you guys have rented this place, and since you have been away, I've not rented it to anybody, but it is because you people have an agreement with you. Now come and pay. It's not my business whether you are on strike or not. This my room has not been on strike.
Right.
Okay. Going straight to that, looking at it from the angle of the landlord.
No, by the way, you say your child is in federal university.
Yes, exactly.
And she's not having this problem.
No. She's in. We balloted together, and she was able to get an allocation from the university on campus. Okay, but I have a nephew who went through a similar experience of getting his things thrown out. So I know how.
By the landlord?
Yes, exactly. You see, but you know one thing is this. If you go to a hotel, a few days ago I was in a hotel in Benin, and we needed to check out. Okay? And if your checkout time is 12, and you still have your stuff there till 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, you're not going to start telling the hotel that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay.
Unless you call them and say, can I stay a little bit? My flight is so time. And
So if I'm renting a place, and the agreement is I'm renting the place for 1 year, the basis for that rental is not because school is opened or closed. Okay?
It's not part of the agreement.
Yes. So you see, you have to look at it, and who takes responsibility? You see, if the first and foremost, it is laughable that a government will allow students, young prospects, if the leaders of tomorrow, which is just next door, to be at home for 8 months. Okay? So now the lecturers were not paid, and there's going to be there's a promise of a payment of backlog, right? So what happens to the parents who have to pay? Is anything going to be done for them? Then the landlords, I don't think...
So the parents are also calling for backlog?
No, you see, you cannot expect...
The parents are calling for backlog. Why the lecturers are saying, you want us to pay us, the parents are asking that they do not pay. So you pay, you not pay.
Okay, let's put it like this. It is also possible that some of those landlords are having children in universities, they need to pay bills. And that's where they are earning their income.
That's their investment.
Okay, so we are looking at a government intervention, just like, in the UK, for example, government is taking care of some reducing electricity bills, reducing gas bills. So I believe that, at this point in time, if we have a thinking government, if we have people in government that are thinking, then there must be some form of brainstorming of what's the way forward here. These people have actually provided a service. Whether the school was open or not, as long as they didn't terminate the contract, the rent is running. So the government can sit down and think about it. How do we cut the cost of governance? To subsidize. How do we get people together? Using ASUU professionals, ASUU intellectuals, how do we work with the landlords and see how there can be a concession? Because there's no landlord, I don't think, I'm not a landlord, I don't have any property that I'm renting students, but I'm just being logical, okay? There's no landlord that you go and meet and he will say, you know what, okay, it's all right, no problem, you can come back and don't pay. It's going to be very rare because those buildings were set up as a business, not for charity. It's not an NGO, you know. So the government needs to sit down and see how will this problem be solved. You know, how do they get back? Not parents. Some parents are part of the system of ASUU that we're not earning their salaries. Okay, so we have to look at it from this perspective. The landlord, yes, you want to meet a landlord. Just imagine you have a property and they come and tell you that, sorry, you know, because we're on strike and I'm not going to be able to pay the rent. Meanwhile, you have some lines of responsibilities that those rent incomes are attached to. You know, so we have to be reasonable. We cannot afford to be emotional. We have to be reasonable. As a parent, if I was in that situation, I would not, even though I will wish for a discount, but I won't demand it. It's not going to be an entitlement. It cannot be an entitlement. So we look at the government and say, okay, what do you want to do? Okay, this is what you are doing. It's a chain. It's a value chain. The lecturers are there. The students are there. The parents are there.
Well, the federal government can say, I didn't ask the lecturers to go on strike. Why are you calling? Why are you asking me? Are you asking me to pay? Okay. I didn't ask them to go on strike.
Good. Okay, yes. Okay. If you didn't ask, if the federal government didn't ask them to go on strike, then why would the same federal government want to pay the backlog? So if you are going to, why
they are trying to pay the backlog. They are trying to pay the backlog. Of course, they are trying to pay the backlog. Yeah. But they didn't want to pay the backlog.
No, of course, obviously.
They didn't feel that they ought to pay. It was necessary to pay the backlog because they did not ask them to go on strike. Actually, in most places in the world, when you go on strike, you don't pay people. Yes, you don't pay. Yeah. But in Nigeria, actually, our labor system has become a sort of blackmail. When you go on strike, you take it as a responsibility. Let me tell you an instance. In the UK, these workers, those people who spray the firefighters, they had problem with their pay, and they wanted to go on strike, but they were reluctant. They interviewed them. They said, the reason I took this job was not only because I want to feed my family, it's also because I have a responsibility to this society. The reason you become a lecturer is not only because you want to feed your family and so on, but because you want to train young people. I'm not saying that they should not be fair to them, but that is why those people did not go on strike. They knew that they also had responsibilities at home, but that responsibility to society. You have to find a way to negotiate those responsibilities. We don't do that here because everything here is a looter. Yes.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were speaking with a parent who is reacting to the situation on the ground after ASUU called off its 8-month-long strike, where landlords are asking students to pay back the backlog of the rents, and he was reacting to that. Sam asked you a question or said something earlier that you wanted to react to.
I don't think I can remember.
Oh well, I was trying to find out what is the problem with education. Why is it that the lecturers who are now seeking their own backlog of salaries, what are they doing to help the students too to fight for their own rent?
And shouldn't NANS be championing this cause of speaking with landlords, since what they are set up for is to address the interest of students? Shouldn't they be the ones at the forefront of this?
All right. I'm a business consultant. I have an entrepreneurship background. So I'm looking at it the way it really is. You know, I believe that first and foremost, you know, there are ways that government can come in, okay, to reduce this, you know, reduce the problem. Number one, if you say the fees to be paid, you can say, all right, I can see that a government that feels, a government that cares, you know, a system that cares will say, like I said about the UK, they are giving them, you know, credits for electricity and all that. The government can sit down and say, listen, you see, this is a problem. I want to pay the lecturers backlog, okay? Then the students who are having challenges with accommodation increase, let's see how we can reduce, the charges, reduce what they are paying. It's all about thinking. It's about thinking, you see, and it makes them feel that they are cared for. The average youth has no confidence in Nigeria as an entity. It has no confidence in the government. And what do they want to do? They all want to check out. I played an old song for my children about 2 weeks ago. That one lady says, Nigeria go survive,
Andrew, not check out.
Exactly. And it was like, what is this? The reality is that I was a little child then, and it's not better now. So if the government wants to show concern for the students, it's not difficult to know what to do. We all, everybody, the top government officials, they watch CNN, they watch Sky, they watch BBC World. They know what's happening around the world. If we can cut down on those first-class tickets to go abroad and say, okay, government officials use economy. If we can cut down on those large convoys, an SUV, for example, maybe to fill up that tank might be about 25,000. And how many SUVs are in the convoy? If we can cut down on the cost of governance, cut down on the cost on wastage in governance, right? We can push that money into education. We saw the body language of the ASUU, Resumption. It was very clear that they are not even convinced that the government is going to keep that promise. They are not convinced. From what he said, that they did it based on trust. And it's not impossible that the government might not keep it.
Based on trust. They were also cornered into doing it.
You see, yes, they were cornered. Yes, they were cornered, but
cornered.
There's a time, like you said, earlier on, you stoop to conquer.
No, that was, I was quoting Wordsworth.
I know you're an encyclopedia on your own.
To stoop to conquer was Oliver Goldsmith. I was quoting Wordsworth when he said, wisdom is oftentimes nearer when we stoop than when we soar.
So I believe that, we have to be fair to all concerned.
Yeah. But all of you have said to me, it looks like in the long run, what can be done, low-hanging fruits that can be addressed as quickly as possible. Because when we went to the break, we had someone here telling us that his daughter was given just 2 weeks to pay back. Yeah. And there are others who are in this situation. We must address it as quickly as possible.
Government should look for money for the rents of...
No, if the problem... you see, that's what you know what I mean. You see, what I'm saying is, the things that are possible, you see, what you say that... adversity, unleashes creativity, all right? So there's a problem now. There has to be creative thinking. There has to be creative thinking. You can't expect...
But one thing? NANS has not galvanized anything about it. They have not come together to say, this is the situation students are facing. Yeah. We are the ones who are saying, we notice that there's this problem going on around. But even NANS and even ASUU, they have not come to articulate and even coalesce this sentiment into some kind of grievance to government to say this is what we are facing. How would the government even intervene if they know if they are not aware that this kind of thing is going on, if the problem is not presented to them? And then how do you aggregate them? Who do you want to take care of? You want to take care of those people who are paying accommodation who are out of those who have paid.
All right. All right.
How are you going to take care of it? I remember a case, just a second, when Fayemi was governor of Ekiti State. He was paying, what they call it, this money to the monthly stipend to the poor families. Yeah. And when he lost the election bid, some of the complaints came that some people were complaining that you gave my neighbor 10,000 or 15,000 naira. You didn't give me. You are punishing me because you learned that my son is what they call it, a custom officer. So are you blaming me for making my son successful? It was a genuine complaint. They're saying that don't deprive me of the money because I succeeded. You are giving that one because she failed. So that's what they're saying. So it's very difficult. So you can say, okay, I'm now paying school fees. I'm not paying school fees in a government institution, and you're not coming to subsidize it. So the one who is having private accommodation, who has better toilet, who has better cooking facility, who has a cleaner environment, you are going to help pay that person and not deprive me. Who working in
how
the...
do we resolve that?
How do you reconcile?
Okay, you see, like I said, I'm thinking as a business person, okay? But the discussion is moving towards what can the government do? Okay, all right, good.
What is justice?
Okay, good. So the key thing there is that, I mean, basically, we have to swallow the bitter pill, and if it's an individual transaction, those are individual transactions. Of course, a number of people, a large number of students are renting outside. But immediately, like you said, what do we do now? It's for them to each parent go and discuss and negotiate with your landlord.
Exactly, come to that because
negotiate.
The schools are not saying the schools are not saying go and pay.
Yes.
Go and pay for backlog. The schools are not saying so for those that are accommodating. It's the private people that are saying so. So in a sense, the school and the government is already subsidizing.
Good. But you see, it is because the school is not providing enough accommodation, I mean, for majority, that's why they are going to rent outside. For me, when I was in university, I finished university about 25 years or 26 years ago, I don't think I stepped into the male hostel up to 10 times because I didn't like that. I could afford to stay in a very nice place, and I did that, okay? And like you said, I was one of those people that also had a car. So I was okay on my own. But there were so many people that were staying in hostels, okay? So if the schools can provide accommodation, the people having this issue now will not have the issue because those people who will go and rent outside, they are the ones that have the financial muscle to do so. So what am I thinking in my head and say, okay, if there's so much space, use Unilag for example, there's a lot of space, where you can put some hostels there. There is space. You go to Unilag and see. If the government wants to address this problem, like deal with it mid or long term, let's get some more hostels there. Put some more people there.
There's something about the university. University is not about just building up the whole place.
No.
There's also aesthetics. I remember in those days when I was in Ife, Shoyinka was complaining about the erection of new buildings in certain places in the university. And it was complaining. I don't know if you can remember now. But I remember there when it was saying that although some people describe us as accuse us of obscurities and impenetrable densities, he said, but he was talking, where is the greenery? Where is the aesthetics of company? No, I Shoyinka likes nature, So what is it going to be? Everywhere is going to be built up. Then what is school education about? Education is not just about buildings and he said the university idea is not about erecting building and all of that. University idea is also about greeneries, about creating an atmosphere that is good. He was talking about Ife, which is perhaps the most beautiful campus anywhere in Africa. It was also you can't just say that you want to build up everywhere. And then you think that you are creating education. It's also an environmental problem to do that. It's why in these days when we are conscious of environment. So you see now that the problem of education needs rethinking. Generally, we have more people than we have our capacity for. And when we are saying, and most governments are saying, we want to build more universities, people are complaining, why are you building more universities? But there's also a problem. We have more people who want to. We have become like rats. We are building children everywhere. As what they call it, the rich get richer and the poor are getting children. That's what we're having. So I get a situation where we have more people than we have capacity. And okay, we want to open our campuses to have more people to enter so that more people can have opportunities. But we are devaluing even the capacity to even educate them well because we have the teacher to student ratio is becoming very, very powerful.
So how do we rethink our system quickly. Because we need to
You know,
wrap up.
I said earlier, let's look at innovation. You know, we have to start looking at e-learning modules. You know, we can't get all of them in now, you know, but we can do online. We can do our schooling online. If we have the right infrastructure, government tries to help, you know, to make sure that they have a very good network that you'll be able to learn online, you know, and they can reduce the numbers. Because if you keep on having them coming in, like the ones in already that are having accommodation issues, those are the ones we can be talking about, okay, maybe we should look for. We don't want to crowd the schools with buildings, but where there is space, put some hostels there. But going forward, we should start thinking and looking at it. Must everybody come to that physical location to go to school? No. You know, a system can be designed. I believe that ASUU, you know, having done this, the payment system that they've done, they can design a system in which you can have e-learning, you know, and you will see it's more convenient. It's more convenient for you to study online than for you to go physical. You don't need to pay for transport. You don't need to do a lot of things that money is... as parents, we know how much we spend. We know how much we spend. And, you know. I'm
sure they'll be looking into other ways, innovations, or in other innovative ways to addressing this matter. But we must leave the conversation here now. Ijiro Sagwa, thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sagwa.
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 All right.